On something completely different before we hit the Blockhaus. I love this. It's absolutely the best story going today. And if you haven't heard this, it's so totally different to the sort of nitty-gritty cynicism we've just been talking about. Check this out. This is a story that came to light yesterday. And I'll read it verbatim because it's just so funny. And just listen to the language. It just makes me laugh so much. Close to 200 prisoners will cycle around France next month, watched by scores of guards on bicycles in the first penal version of the Tour de France, authorities said on Monday. The 196 prisoners will cycle in a pack and breakaway sprints are not allowed. They'll be accompanied by 124 guards and prison sports instructors. There will be no ranking, the idea being to foster values like teamwork and effort. Listen to this. It's a kind of escape for us, a chance to break away from the daily reality of prison, said Daniel, a 48-year-old prisoner from the western city of Nantes, at the official launch of the event. His last name was not given. If we behave well, we'll be able to get released earlier on probation, he told reporters. The prisoners' Tour de France will take them 2,300 kilometers around the country, starting in the northern city of Lille on June the 4th and stopping in 17 towns, each of which has a prison. The first line will be in Paris, the finish line will be in Paris, following the Tour de France tradition. This project aims to help these men regenerate into society, or reintegrate into society, by fostering values like effort, teamwork and self-esteem, said Sylvie Marion of the prison authorities. That is the best story I've heard in such a long time. I'll tell you what, the jokes can fly thick and fast. Whole new meanings for breakaways and escape group and so on. I just love the idea of somebody taking a flyer down a mountain. They decide to get off the road and down the field and being pursued by prison guards on bikes. I think that's absolutely brilliant. We had all sorts of comments earlier, you know, musettes with swag across the back of them and a yellow jersey with arrows on it. Just think it's such a funny idea. There we go. Check that one out. First Tour de France for prisoners. Fantastic. Our 10 breakaway men have 3 minutes of a gap over everybody else at the moment in the peloton. Well, the question is, it's just calmed down a little bit, Sean. I mean, obviously gives a slightly false impression because most viewers come to see the Giro d'Italia. This is the intermediate sprint point. The Giovanni Visconti is going for the intermediate sprint, is at Farafilorum. And it looks like Visconti really wants to go for this, and they're almost beginning the climb of the Blockhaus. Instead of, it actually just gradually rises from here. There's another little sort of dogtooth climb right now at Bevivio per Petoro, and then into the Blockhaus. The question is, Sean, I mean, it's calmed down a little bit with Alessandro Patacchi doing the water carrier's job here and giving Bosisio a new top-up, but it's going to really ramp up very shortly. I mean, by the time they get to that intermediate sprint point, and they've got 3 minutes to make up on the group that's just gone through, I think they're going to be flying.
Well, I think certainly it will, start to pace up in the bunch, and as we get close to the climb, it will certainly start building. And the 3 minutes, it's a nice advantage. And although it is coming down, I think the last time check was race radar 2:45, so it's coming down slowly. But it's a nice advantage to go in because into the final climb, the 10 riders, it's not a long stage where they're being out there for a long day. So they could hold on for a long time on this climb. And if you look at the riders that are up there, like Cardenas is a very good climber. There's a few quite good climbers there. It will be interesting to see that if the LPRs will be able to up it that much as we go into this. Coming to the last 25 kilometers.
Well, we've got just the one more commercial break that we're going to take before they hit the climb of the Blockhaus. It is LPR doing the work on the front, just trying to keep it all under control. I think the nerves that initially affected the front of the peloton have calmed down a little bit. It does happen though, Sean, and I was just about to say, people usually come in a little bit later in a stage. They don't see all that jostling and those attacks first of all, and the responses and so on and so forth. It's fairly common.
Yes, well, it's an everyday occurrence, and you know, we unfortunately do not see that on a lot of our stages when we come in later into the stage, and that is, you know, very interesting racing, trying to get into a break and trying to establish a break. It just happens every day, but today was a day where it relatively easily the group got away in the start. I think there's other days where it would go on maybe for 40-50 kilometres, and there would be attacks after attack to try and get away. But certainly I think the advantage is for the breakaway, you know, they haven't been out there for that long period, and that will help certainly on the final climb. It will make it more difficult for the bunch to pull them back in on the climb to the finish.
Well, we're going to take a short commercial break soon, but before we do and the action kicks off, here's a lovely little email. This is from Johnson Balfour from Norfolk, VC Baracci in Norfolk, saying, my wife gave birth to a son recently. His name is Oscar. We chose the name while watching your coverage of the Tour of California, hence the name after Oscar Sevilla. We decided we liked the name and we called him Oscar. Congratulations, both of you. And that's very kind of you that you did it because you were watching our coverage. How many? Oscar seems to be a popular name in cycling. How many Oscars are there in this year's Giro? Just the one, Oscar Gatto. That's a nice little story. That's not such a nice story, but look at the crowds. They are really out in force. Still snow at the top of the Blockhaus, and but to be fair, they won't feel it so much because they will just be going hammer and tongs. The only people who will feel it are those further down the peloton who are not likely to be going absolutely full bore towards the top. That is Riccardo Chirini just in your shot you've seen come by. Visconti taking the points ahead of Palumbo and Mauro Facci. Well, we're going to take our last commercial break very shortly because this is one of the epic stages of the Giro d'Italia, the Centenary Giro. It's the rise up to 1,674 meters of Blockhaus. You're back with live shots. Velo have taken up the pacemaking at the front now. And just as maybe John McMillan is now rubbing his hands thinking, maybe he is going to hit the bottom of the slope hard, is Carlos Sastre. Sastre knows he could at least try and use his climbing prowess to take some more time out of second place man Danilo Di Luca. The question I asked earlier was which other rider he's trying. By the way, Carlos Sastre is trying to be the first man in a number of years, or only the third man in recent times anyway, to get a place on consecutive Grand Tour podiums. He was first, of course, in the Tour de France last year. He then got third spot in the Vuelta last year. He wants to get on the podium this year. That would make 3 consecutive Grand Tours. Only 2 other riders have finished, this is in modern times, have finished on the podium in 3 consecutive Grand Tours. And Luke, you've got one of them, right? And there was another one as well, and it's Killian, I think, who's got the other one. If you can, somebody can get them both, that'd be quite handy. So 2 riders in modern times, and we're talking about post-war times. I'm not talking about Coppi or Bartali or Berendero or riders like that. 2 other riders, one in the early 80s and one in the early 70s, we shall say. And if you can tell me which they are and who they were, that gives you pretty big clues. Dan Lloyd just on the front there with Simon Gerrans behind him. The British rider Lloyd came into the Giro. I'm very impressed, actually. He's managed to hang in here. Came here after a nasty virus that messed up his whole Ardennes Classics campaign after being doing so well on the Cobble Classics. And he's had to ride through the after effects of that in the first 10 days. Says he's feeling very good now, but this is the moment for riders like him, Sean. They've been saving themselves or trying to ride themselves, keep themselves fit, out of trouble to help Carlos Sastre. Now is when he needs them.
Yes, certainly, and you know, it's been like that for the first 10 days, 2 weeks of the Giro. The riders, like the Velo riders, and also we talked about the Rabobanks. They've been, you know, down. A lot of them have been finishing quite a long way down, and you look at the results and you say, well, you know, are they really suffering? Are they just playing the waiting game? And I think certainly it's exactly the same for both teams. You know, they have been trying to just save as much energy for the days when they need it, and we've seen the Rabobanks in the past days. Velo at the moment are doing it, and you know, it's great to have a full team up there. We see he's a full team ahead of him here, and you know, looking like they're going to, you know, make the race really difficult leading into the climb. Make it as difficult and as fast as possible for everybody, and that's what Sastre needs, to try and, you know, create a bit of damage and to pull back more time on the big favourites. And I think he will certainly, you know, go in the attack. The morale is good. He could get rid of the other big favourites the other day, and he's definitely going to try it big time today once again.
I think so. What a difference between the valley floor here and the top of Blockhaus. Most imposing when it's clear. The view is absolutely brilliant over Abruzzo, but now not so easy to see the views. It's just completely covered in low cloud. And how will that affect riders, Sean? I mean, does that, when the riders are really suffering, when you get that sort of weather surrounding you, does it just take a little bit of edge off, knock another way 1 or 2% out of your legs?
No, I don't think it will knock anything out of the guys today, because you know, it's just a one climb. If you have to go over a couple of mountains during the day and you have to go downhill, you know, you get cold, and you know, you just get so warm on the climb, and then on the downhill you can cool down a lot, and that's difficult when you start the next climb after doing a descent of maybe 10 or 12 kilometers. Here it's just a gradual, you know, climb up all the time, so it will have no effect whatsoever, as we see one of the bike guys having a problem.
Yep, it's Matthew Spick with a rear puncture.
Not a nice time.
No, not a nice time. I was just about to say the same. And he's had a good Giro d'Italia, Spick. He's been in a couple of breaks and done quite well. He's obviously in reasonably good shape, and that'll be useful coming up to the Tour de France, if of course he is picked for the Tour de France. I'm be surprised if he isn't. He's been in the last couple of Tour lineups, I seem to remember. Spick is a good all-rounder. These are our breakaway men. It just now begins to go up and up and up and up. If you were a man in this breakaway, Sean, well, clearly they wouldn't have let you get in this breakaway with your Palmares, but if you were in this breakaway, what would you be thinking of doing right now?
Well, I think you know, you just try and keep the group going and keep working together. It depends always how you feel. If you're feeling good and you know, you think you can do something in the stage, the main thing is just to keep the organisation going here, and, you know, keep riders coming onto the front and doing their bit. Because when you get into the last 10-15 kilometres, certainly it's, you know, it's really man against man, and there's not a great advantage here. There still is that little bit of, you know, drafting where you can get somebody to ride in front of you, and it does help a little bit, although when you're going uphill, you know, it reduces a lot compared to on the flat, but still it's an advantage. And if you can keep a lot of the riders out of this 10-man groups, you know, pulling their weight and just taking the front for 100-150 metres, and then coming off and a new one going onto the front, that's so important to try and hold your advantage. And you know, it's looking okay at the moment. We see the gap is coming down, but nothing majorly, and it depends on what time the big bunch will go in the attack. If they go very, very early in the first slope, the more steeper sections of it, the gap will come down quickly. But if they start marking each other again, and that's what you're hoping for, the big favourites will maybe play the, you know, the tactic game, who's going to go in the attack in the beginning, and you could go a long ways up this climb towards the stage victory.
Well, now the effort really coming on the front, on the faces of the Cervelo boys, doing as much work as they can, trying to keep it going. Now it's the completely the opposite to that you've just advised. It's Thomas Voeckler, which he's already decided to go for it. Well, that's hardly surprising. You'd have wondered if they just let him go, quite frankly.
And it would certainly take Thomas to do that.
Yeah.
Again, like, he's a rider who could do something. If he's in a good day here, he should be able to match quite a lot of these, and maybe, you know, able to be the best of them. But to attack at this point, you know, it's going to kill off the break really, because when they come back together again, if they all come back together, well, you know, there'll be guys who do not want to do the pulling again, because they say, well, someone else will go in the attack, and you just upset the rhythm. But maybe there's some guys here who are not able to pull their weight, and, you know, it can help to attack and get away with 3 or 4 others and then start working again. That also sometimes is the best tactic to go for.
He never seems to look over his shoulder though and see if anybody's coming with him, does Tommy? He just does what he wants to do, and away he goes. Some people hate it because of its strangeness in terms of tactical Naus, but other people love it because it's an attacking rider who just wants to get out there and attack. We'll finish the question of the day now because things are really going to go off. Killian and Brian both got it right. Nicholas, 15 years old from London. I'm glad you're watching the Giro every day. No, the two riders you put in aren't the right ones, but make sure you get down to and come and say hello to us at the Smithfield Nocturne coming up on the 6th of June, because I'll be there on the mic. So if you're in London on the 6th of June, Smithfield Nocturne. The first one is in Edinburgh, the last weekend of the Giro d'Italia, and then the final one in Blackpool in August. Already looking like he's drawing breath. Carlos Sastre, he's very keyed up for this one as well today. They're definitely posturing and manoeuvring into getting the right position at the moment. The answer was, by the way, Sastre was first in the Tour last year. This man here, third in the Vuelta last year. Bernardino was first in the Giro in 1982, followed it up with a win in the Tour in 82, then came back to the Vuelta, which of course was in a spring start in 1983 to win that as well. Eddie Merckx was the other rider. Same situation with the Vuelta at that point. Giro 1972, Tour 1972, Vuelta 73, and then back to the Giro 73. First on all occasions. Fuckler looking over his shoulder. Come on, give me a hand. Come on, here we are. Give me a hand. It's no good shaking your head, Tommy. You're the one who started it. Well, there's only 6 up at the front now. And Thomas Faulkner was the man who started it all off. Well, that's good for Hakebio Galicia. They've got both their men up in this group now, with Faulkner in the middle. Chiarini is the rider from LPR who's going to contribute absolutely nothing to this other than sit there and just try and even disrupt the rhythm of it, I would imagine. Felix Cardenas in this group. And I haven't caught, I just haven't quite caught the number of the other chap in there. Marzoli it is. Marzoli is the rider from Acqua Sapone. So with 20 kilometers to go then, this is when it'll all start. Very, very shortly, the Blockhaus will just start to wind its way up towards the top. They're just short of the top this year. They couldn't get the trucks all the way up the top. But you've seen how the low cloud is affecting everything there, and it winds and twists all its way around. Cervelo looking a little bit nervous. Look at this. Somebody's gone off the road here. It's one of the Cervelo boys has got off the road. Don't know who it is, but that's possibly while they were looking back and looking over each other. Now, who's on the front? Oh,
Dignan.
Oh, is that Dignan?
Yes.
Oh, that looks very nasty. Oh, at least he hasn't, at least he's not holding his collarbone. Philip Dignan has lost half of his jersey here, but the collarbone seems to be okay. This is always the big worry, isn't it, Sean? When you go over hard on your shoulder, that that collarbone's just going to go snap.
Yes, well, certainly he was, going at a very fast rate, and it could have been, much worse. He could have broken a bone there, but he certainly got plenty of road rash, but nothing more than that. And I think he can count himself lucky. And the other thing is, I think he'd be saying, well, I did not take out the rest of my teammates, because that would be a real disaster.
Yeah, and he was right at the front. A little bit of dust, maybe. Doesn't look like he's had a puncture. The tyres are pretty grippy on those, having ridden one of those bikes with that tyre setup in the Paris-Nice, riding Ted King's bike. There's no shortage of grip in corners. Vittoria's, I think they're using.
And they've certainly had to be some little bit of oil on the road there, because he was, he had a very good line, and just the front wheel just, totally slided from under him, and down he went. And it can be a little bit of a line on the road, a drop of oil from the cars, a drop of diesel from some of the cars out ahead, and you just get caught out so easily.
Marzoli from Acqua Sapone ahead of Felix Cardenas of Barlow World. The Barlow World rider, the one with the white flashes on the shoulders, as Philip Dignan just wheels his way along now. No rejoining the peloton for him. He'll just have to try and make it to the finish now, so it'll be a bit sore from that. That was some fall. He was very lucky, in fact, not to sustain more injuries. It's incredible, isn't it? But often, as we've said, Sean, it's the high-speed crashes that are easiest on your body in many ways. You get a lot of road rash, but the low-speed crashes tend to end up with more broken bones.
Yes, it's very often the case when you're going slowly, you fall, much heavier, and that's when you break the bones. And yes, certainly I had experience of that as well. Some of the times when I broke collarbone, I was, going at a very slow rate, and it's pretty much the case. Well, that's when you see riders breaking bones, and it's amazing. We see Duignan there probably going at 50k per hour, and get a lot of road rash, and just comes out of that, which only that, which is it's great to see. The problem is for Duignan now is the time limit today. It's 15%, and that's where you have to be careful. As some of the riders here, we'll have to be looking out for that. You can lose that time very, what is it, 14 or 15 minutes maybe. It could tick away very, very quickly, and Duignan, he's at an advantage today. He's probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes behind the bunch at the moment.
Here's our escape group. On what's left of it, it's been whittled down from 10 to 6. Both the Jacobio Galicia riders are in here, Rubenal and Fernandez. Cardenas, the Colombian, in the Bala World colours, also in this group as well. The two Jacobio Galicia riders are at the back here. Couldn't get more different styles. One spinning the pedals like mad, the other one churning a big gear. Then Cardenas further up, then Chiarini of LPR. He's not going to do a thing to contribute to this because his leader, Danilo Di Luca, is behind. And gunning for the stage victory today by the looks of it. Mind you, so is Carlos Sastre, it would appear. Marzoli is the rider from Acqua Sapone. And Thomas Vogler, the man who kicked it all off. This is the peloton looking. There's a little bit of nerves here. There's a lot of tense bodies here. Sastra's Cervelo squad, they put a lot of men on the front, the whole team on the front, to drive it along very quickly. The crash of Duignan seems to have disrupted a little bit, Sean, but they only got 2 men up there with him now.
Yes, it certainly did, and we see immediately when the crash happened, everybody was looking around, and it did certainly upset the organisation on the front. But I think they've been doing a very, very strong ride on the front, and as it kicks up, they're just paying the price now, because the pot had been on 15 kilometres, certainly, if not 20 kilometres on the front, and it would have normally paid anyway. Without the crash, I think we would see them disappearing, because they've really put up the pace very, very fast in the last 20 kilometres.
They are into the climb of Blockhaus now. They're at Pretoro. And you can just see how precipitous this building is all the way up. They will not stop climbing now until they get to the top. 1,674 meters from sea level. This is Palombo Facci Bono being taken back by the peloton, the pink jersey group, and it's Felix Cardenas, a very good climber, trying to drive things on now. Well, maybe it was exactly what Sean was saying about Thomas Vogler, saying, well, I need to try and speed things up a little bit, because there are people who don't want to work or can't work in this group, although it seems to have backfired on him a little bit, because the riders up ahead seem a little bit stronger than Vogler now.
Well, it's difficult to see, because I think Vogler could be also playing the game well. We have, a nice group up here, and let the others do some of the pulling on the front as well. But the gap is just, melting down quickly. 53 seconds we hear over radio, so it's it's going to be difficult, I think, for them to hold out much longer, because the way the bunch is preparing this one, I think we will see it, very, very early attacks from the big favourites, and that's always going to really kill off the breakaway very quickly.
Chiarini, there is Thomas Vogler from Martinique. Well, he was actually born in the eastern provinces of France, in Alsace, but spent a lot of his time in Martinique and then came back. I'm always a big fan of Thomas Vogler, because when he first came back to France, his knowledge of bike racing was just nothing, really. He could ride a bike, and he certainly didn't know how to deal with the tactics of the peloton, and he's just kept his own counsel on many things, and it's made him immensely popular.
And he's still a little bit like that.
Yes, exactly, yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say, he kept his own counsel on that. He's never really changed, has he? He's never been absorbed into that whole Euro thinking. He's got that attacking spirit. And he came here with nothing. He came here with no relatives or anything. He just had to come and stay with friends. Bit old style, really. So in many ways, he's one of the French riders who is hungry.
Yes, well, he certainly is hungry, and you know, he's a very talented rider. And but you know, the disappointing thing is, I think if he calculated a bit more and attack at the right moment, he could win some more races. Certainly, I think he could win a lot more races if he was a little bit more of the calculating type of rider.
This is one of the nastiest sections here in Blockhaus. The average percentage here is about 13, and Fokler hanging in there with Cardenas, a very good climber indeed. And Chiarini just gritting his teeth and working up to the back wheel of Thomas Fokler. LPR and Rabobank putting men on the front here to try and ease the pace back a little bit, Sean, I think, because they don't want Sastra's team controlling the pace and making it difficult for them, because they think Sastra can go quicker.
Well, of course, yes. I think some of the teams would rather to just take it down a bit, and if you put some of the teammates up there, you can do that. And Rabobank maybe just want to calm the situation a bit, because for Menchoff to get into the climb and get maybe a couple of kilometres into the rhythm of things, he probably would rather that, where Sastra the one who they can sprint into the climb and then just keep on going. And I think that was certainly the tactic of the Cervelo team.
Spezialetti and Tendam are the two riders on the front, or were. Alessandro Spezialetti from LPR. Laurens Tendam was the rider from Rabobank, still trying to work as hard as possible. Sastra still has just one man with him to push on. And now look, adjusting the pace, trying to get up to the front and dictate exactly the pace that Sastra wants to get at. 15 kilometers to go for the lead three riders here. They had about 45 seconds. Thomas Fokler in the blue of Bouygues Telecom, on the red and white Barlow World colours. It's Felix Cardenas. And now another attack. Looks like Sylvester Schmidt. Schmidt from the Liquigas squad, trying to set the pace a little bit here. He's gone a little bit too far ahead of the peloton, I think. Is anybody going to worry about that? Going for his own thing, I think, here, Sean.
I doubt if he's going for his own. I think
well, I can't see what he's doing for the peloton.
I think he's going to just try and take a 15-second advantage, 20-second advantage, and we're definitely going to see Basso or Pellizotti trying to
get across,
jump out the group. We haven't seen him for the past number of days, so maybe he's been just minding himself. So certainly there's a tactic in this.
I'm just wondering whether they're trying to get Schmidt up towards Chiarini so that they've got a man for man up there.
Well, certainly Chiarini is going to play the tactic role as well. Wait for De Luca, later on, and we will see that. I think we will see that being put into motion a bit further up the climb.
Well, now the big favourites have started to all look at each other. This is going to be just a war of attrition. This is going to be war. No doubt, not even attrition. This is going to be a pitch battle. This is tooth and nail. And there's going to be a lot of blooded riders by the end of this, because Menchoff, De Luca and Sastra have all come to the front. And Sastra trying to set the pace. Has he got it in the legs, though? He must have taken a huge amount out of himself on the last climb to Monte Petrano. Will he have enough time to recover in one day? This is the big question. Up ahead is Felix Cardenas. It's the third time he's been in the Giro d'Italia, as you can see. Sastra definitely is trying to set the pace here and dictate terms. Behind him, Liquigas looking good in force here. There's Pellizotti third back, Basso is second back. Cardenas has dropped Fokler. I can tell you that Damiano Cunego has already been dropped as well. Here is Chiarini looking over his shoulder, wondering where everybody is. Schmidt up to his wheel, past him. Schmidt really is a super climber, isn't he, Sean?
Yes, certainly, and he's been doing a super job in this race. We haven't seen him on the recent days, but certainly in the first days in the mountains, very impressive. And I think Pellizotti going in the attack. So certainly, yes, as we can see here, this is the tactic. Put Schmidt up a bit up the road, give him 10 seconds of an advantage, and then try and get somebody across. And here
look who is this. This is Lance Armstrong coming across here. Well, look, one people saying is, or one or two people saying is Lance Armstrong got in the legs to attack on this day. Well, he's gone up the road here. I mean, the situation is that he can act as policeman, but he also knows that Leipheimer's not in such good shape. If Armstrong can get up to the back of Pellizotti, then puts him in a slightly better position.
Yes, well, I think if you look at the Astana team, there's other riders there who should be able to look after Leipi, and Brakovic, who was riding very well. Ribeiro. There's also good climbers there. So I don't think Lance has to to sit back with Leipheimer every day. And we see him yesterday. The first signs he went up there for a little moment, and then went back to Leipheimer and started to do the domestique job. But certainly looking impressive again today, and trying to get across here to Pellizotti.
Yeah, if he's trying. He's not doing too badly. He's not lost it yet. How long can he keep this up for? As Felix Cardenas comes along on the inside of him and gets onto his rear wheel. Armstrong spinning that low gear, as we've seen him so many times in the past. He has that sort of really truncated, hunched look when he gets onto a bike. Top of his body stays where it is, and the bottom legs spinning around like mad. Look at them strung out. There's only about, what, 35, 40 riders in this, and then all the rest of them are hanging on down in the back somewhere. Franco Pellizotti. But there's still that question of who is the boss here for Liquigas in the Giro d'Italia, because Pellizotti lost time to his teammate Ivan Basso 2 days ago. Pellizotti is at 3:08, Basso is at 3:19. I mean, I would suggest, Sean, that really they've just said, look, the two of you guys are evenly matched, without taking each other out. We'll just support whoever is the strongest.
Yes, I think we just use two riders and try and that's Lance is catching Schmidt, who was being dropped by Pellizotti. So certainly, he's just clawing his way back to Pellizotti. It'll be interesting to see, can he bridge this back gap, because Pellizotti, a very, very good climber, and the Liquigas are going to use the two riders, because in the general classement they're very close together. And today is the day where we see Pellizotti going in the attack. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry, it was Basu who was going, and I think you have to do that with the position they're in. They have nothing to lose, they have all to gain if they can pull back some valuable time.
This, of course, will make the favourites, De Luca especially here, being shadowed by Denis Menchov, have to think about working. Because Pellizotti at 3 minutes and 8 seconds back on the general classification. Remember, he's only got about 2.25 minutes really to make up on Danilo De Luca. It's a long, long road, but if he can just eat seconds away from people, then De Luca will be forced to respond at some point. A great position once again for Menchov to be in. He can just shadow and shadow at the moment.
Yes, well, Menchov is not going to panic, as he hasn't in the past days. And again, we see it's De Luca who's the one who's starting to worry about maybe his position, for the place on the podium. And Menchov, so cool. Yes, 2 days ago he was in the same situation and allowed, De Luca to do the chasing when it had to be done. And as they got closer to the finish, started to do a little bit of the pulling with De Luca, and then took the bonifications from De Luca for the second place on the stage. But De Luca is certainly going to try everything here, and if he can make a very, very strong pace, that's the time you could see the cracks coming. And it's possible we could, it's happened before to very, very impressive leaders over the previous days. Suddenly they crack, and I think De Luca is just trying this tactic, really make it difficult, and see we put Menchov under some pressure.
It's Francesco Mascherelli here driving things along at the front. He keeps looking behind to see where Kevin Seldrez is, I would imagine. He's second at the moment in the young riders classification at 4 minutes and something. Levi Leipheimer is in this group, second in line. Behind him is Danilo De Luca. Leipheimer has this man, Lance Armstrong, up the road at the moment in his rather garish kit and bike, but that doesn't make any difference to the climbing. And back down the hill from those two, Jose Serpa and Gilberto Simoni. There's Tadej Valivets for AG2R, and they're just sitting behind Denis Menchov, so it's obviously not hurting him so far. So the initial idea of Carlos Sastra's team getting him there at the front and giving it a dig, Sean, maybe he simply doesn't have it in the legs at the moment. Maybe he's decided, look, tactically the best thing is to wait for a little bit. Franco Pellizotti, though, is not that far behind him, and it's now a case of defending third place as well as everything else.
Yes, well, of course, certainly I think Menchov is going to be calculating, and he's going to be getting that from the team director as well. You know, he's going to be told, look, you know, Pellizotti can, you know, move up in this classement, and just, you know, do not get really concerned at the moment, because, as you said, Pellizotti is, you know, quite a bit down in the general classement, and Menchov is going to keep his cool, and he's going to hope that, you know, Sastre will start panicking De Luca, as we've seen before. He's already panicked in situations. But as we see the Machiarelli really, you know, doing the pace setting, and that suits certainly, you know, no worry for Menchov here. Allow them to just do it.
Here's all the big favourites. Garzelli, you can see there, Basso, Sastre, Menchov, Brugigin, Rogers in there, Schmidt. There's Valivets and Serpa. Konstantin Suets, who is the other rider from Columbia High Road there, and Gilberto Simoni and also Serpa, both in there from Dico Giovanni. This is the sort of climb that suits Franco Pellizotti as well. It's very long, Sean, but it's not exceptionally steep except for two small sections. It's under 7% average, so if you get into a rhythm, you could just pound your way up here. Better for Pellizotti.
Yes, I think certainly it's his style of climb, although he can get up the steep ones when he's really going well, but he's probably a better, more comfortable in this sort of climb, where it's not really majorly steep, and get into a very good rhythm, and he's, you know, certainly doing the business at the moment, and unfortunately for him, there's, you know, rivals in the main bunch, or what's left of the main bunch, who are, you know, controlling it, and we see the Acqui Saponi rather than Marcelli. He's going to keep on riding because he's thinking of course the young under 25 classement.
Yep. Looks like Tendam has finally got back up to here. Laurens Tendam. Tendam was setting the pace early on and got a distance when the attacks came, so now it looks like he's managed to make the junction back here. That is De Luca with Garzelli. Your pick for today, Sean, when we were talking about something earlier, that he might well do something. I wouldn't be surprised. He's attacked all the time when we've been here at the Giro d'Italia. Whenever he's had a chance, he's had a go for it. But turning a slightly bigger gear than many of the others. This is Franco Pellizotti at the head of affairs at the moment. If you look back at his style of climbing and then go back to Lance Armstrong in a minute, you'll see just how different they are. Those are the legs, I'm sure, of Francesco Mascherelli. Seconds now, the gap was 8 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and then 20 seconds back. So although Armstrong is trying, I don't think he's going to make it. They're 22 seconds back on Lance Armstrong, this pink jersey group, so 42 seconds back from the leader on the road at the moment, Franco Pellizotti. At 42 seconds, he's certainly leapfrogging back into third spot here. Sastre will lose that third spot again to Franco Pellizotti if he's not careful, and that's what, of course, Lampre are counting on. We saw Tendam get back up to the front, Sean. How much better would it have been for Denis Menchov if Pedro Horillo had still been in this race? Incidentally, to let you know, Horillo is being transferred back to Spain. Now he continues to improve, but it's a very, very slow process, and our best obviously still going out to Pedro and his family, and also Vogel, young Vogel, Christina Vogel, I think her name is, the junior world track champion. We've seen her a number of times. She was hit by a car last Wednesday, very extensive injuries, and we hope that she's all okay. Similar sort of treatment to Pedro Horillo, as it looks like Brugigin, who's setting the pace here. Bruzhigin changing the nature of the group again, upping the pace. Bruzhigin, who started off down in 11th spot this morning at 8 minutes and 9 minutes and 27 here. Quite what the tactic is for him, we don't know. Now Danilo Di Luca. Di Luca, the man who knows every inch of this this hill. He trains up here, and this is a big, big kick. And Stefano Garzelli knows it, and he's gone with him directly. And the pink jersey of Denis Menchov, watchful, straight onto the wheel. Ivan Basso a little bit slower, but getting there. Now, how big will this attack be? Basso is working his way up, but he's still not made the junction yet. Leipheimer not able to respond in this group, having to follow the pace being set by Mascherelli, with Valjevets also in this group, but Rogers in this group, and they've gone, Sean. Those guys are gone, and there's no Sastre in here.
Yes, certainly a big attack by Di Luca, and you know, immediately Menchov, we see very comfortable, you know, coming back into the wheel, and Garzelli also there as Basso makes contact here. But you know, again, they have to keep going here. That will be the question: who's going to do the pace setting in the front as they come back to Lance very, very quickly here.
Yes,
and I think, you know,
so
Di Luca is certainly going to try and keep this one going, and certainly, you know, put the other ones under pressure. He's, you know, he's all to gain. He could put Menchov under pressure if he can just keep this going all the time, and that's what you have to do. Really set a majorly strong pace and see, can you just put him under a bit of pressure. But it doesn't look the case. You know, Menchov looks very comfortable at the moment.
Well, now, as you say, Sean, we've got a man further up the road, Franco Pellizotti. If he's got anything left in his legs with the time they reach them, then they've got the double card to play, Liquigas, and Basso here and Pellizotti. But the big news really is that there's no Carlos Sastre, third man in the GC at the moment in this group. There's no Levi Leipheimer, who's already slipped to 6th. No Michael Rogers in this group either. Arroyo is not here.
Here comes Sastre.
Oh. He's decided he has to go for it. Who's he got in his wheel? Gilberto Simoni, by the look of it. Looks like his style. Sastre having to do this all himself. Can he call upon somebody to help him? It's not. I don't think it's Simoni. Just looking back at it. Yes, it is, I think. And right here behind is Sylvester Schmidt once again. It is Gilberto Simoni. Oh, and he's fighting so hard now, Carlos Sastre, but he's left it awfully late to try and bridge the gap, Sean. I mean, surely it must be something to do with just having to dig, as Paul Sherwin once said, into your suitcase of courage at this point.
Yes, well, certainly, and you know, he's made a mistake to allow these guys to, you know, get the advantage, that 10-15 seconds advantage. You know, but if you're in difficulty at the time when Di Luca went in the attack, you know, just not possible to make the effort, and you know, you need that 10-20 seconds you know, to recover a bit. But it's certainly a big demand, and you're going to pay the price because you're on your own here. But up front we see Di Luca is the only one who is riding, as Sastre just, you know, catches up with Lance here. It's certainly going to be, you know, a difficult one to make it back into this group, because Di Luca is really pushing it on. But still, we have 9 kilometers to go, so you know, there's a long way to get to this finish.
35 seconds a gap from Franco Pellizotti back to the pink jersey group. Danilo Di Luca is giving this one everything. This is his home region of Abruzzo. He wants to win on this mountain. He wants to put time into his rival Denis Menchov. He wants to take, being all a perfect world, he would like to take the Giro d'Italia on this mountain, Blockhaus, the one he trains on. If he wants to train hard on a hill, this is the one he comes to. He says he knows every inch of this road, where he has to accelerate, where he has to take it easy, which side of the road to be on, where exactly to be on at any particular time. And Carlos Sastre is being left to do all the work by himself. And Lance Armstrong will know exactly that he is a good man to be in, because he'll never ever give up. 50 seconds from Pellizotti back to Sastre. Di Luca still pushes on, now having to grit his teeth. Menchov doesn't even look as though he's breathing, though. Look, he's sitting on the wheel, doesn't seem to have a problem following at all. He's looking over his shoulder, Di Luca, and that must be, the anger must be rising up, and him thinking, how the hell do I get rid of this Russian? Basso having to work hard. I think he's digging really deep. Basso is just trying to keep everything under control so he just doesn't lose that vital few inches of ground. Stefano Garzelli at his limit. De Luca's pushed him out of the back door, and he's just going to have to ride as best he can at the moment and hope that they slow down in front, but I don't see that happening.
No, it does look like De Luca is going to, slow down. We've seen De Luca in previous days where he goes in the attack and then maybe he slows it down a bit, but certainly not today. He's just, piling on the pressure here, and we see, Garzelli has paid the price, and that tells us that he's certainly going at a very, very fast rate. And I think his tactic is, just keep piling on the pressure and see can he put, Menchov under some pressure by doing that, by continuing over long distance at a very, very high rate.
We saw Ivan Basso here just sitting in, he's gritting his teeth. He looks not exactly comfortable, not in the same way as Denis Menchov is looking comfortable here, but what will he do when Ola Garzelli's still coming up to them where it's slightly flatter here? Good man, good man. He's such a fighter, Stefano Garzelli. Going to try and take a bit of a break here and a bit of a breather, try and recover just a little bit. Nobody's going to do any work except for Danilo De Luca. De Luca's going to have to drag them up until later on in this stage when one or two of them are going to try and attack. Menchov doesn't have to do anything. It's Basso and Pellizotti when they get to him. They're going to have to do things. But the big question is, will Carlos Sastre be able to make it across? That is the big question. 54 from Pellizotti, back to Armstrong, Simoni. And Carlos Sastre more to the point. 28 seconds down to this. 1 minute and 12 seconds down to Levi Leipheimer. Francisco Mascherelli doing a good job on the front, but Leipheimer just having to stay in their group, just hasn't the legs, and no helping him out from today from Lance Armstrong. He's riding his own race today.
Yes, well, certainly he gave us a good go there after Pellizotti, but unfortunately he did not make it across. And Lance is just paying the price now and being caught by the groups of riders and just going out the rear door. But I think certainly Leipheimer, he knew he was in difficulty, and they were going to leave Lance have a free card today and ride his own race. And surprising him, there isn't some of the other riders from Astana with him, because the likes of Brakovic should be able to stay up there. Maybe Ribeiro you would expect him to stay a bit, but he has the rider with him. That's Mascherelli, who is really making the pace. So for Leipheimer, that's a great plus for him, because he'll keep it going here, and he will hopefully get him keep pulling him along and not lose too much time. But certainly Leipi is suffering. We see the cracks coming there, and once again today he's been caught out.
For the first time here, Sean, we've seen Gilberto Simoni in some exalted company here. Okay, so they're back off the back of the front group, but even so, it's Gilberto Simoni here with Carlos Sastre and Lance Armstrong. Sastre doing all the pace work again. Once again, nobody's going to give him a hand. It's Sastre who has to try and limit his losses, and the rest are getting a ride from him. Great riding by Stefano Garzelli. Obviously had a difficult time for just a little bit there and fought his way back. Whether it was a mechanical problem or whether it was just almost blown, he's fought his way back up to this group.
Yes, I think it was the pace being set by De Luca. Maybe he upped the pace a bit, and De Luca is like that. He can climb in bursts, sudden bursts, and if you're a little bit on the limit, well, you cannot match that. And sometimes it's better just to knock off a bit and allow them to take maybe 10 meters, 15 meters of an advantage, and come back at their own pace. And Garzelli, of course, very experienced. He would know exactly how to do it.
This is Lance Armstrong sitting on the wheel of the 2008 Tour de France winner Carlos Sastre, who put such a big dig in Monte Petroni the other day to take the stage win. The big question was, has he got anything left in the legs? The flash guns going off into the face of Franco Pellizotti, who's trying to make his mark alongside some great cycling names. Eddy Merckx, winner here in 1967, the first time we came up the Blockhaus. The following year, it was Franco Pellizotti, another big Italian hero in cycling, who actually came in second but was promoted to first. Then the Spaniard, Fuente, was the next man to take the honors up here, where he gave a hammering to Eddy Merckx by 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Remember, in those days, certainly it wasn't until I think it was Fuente was the first man to come up here with tarmac. I can't remember. Before that, it was just gravel for a lot of it. Certainly in 1967, when Eddy Merckx took his victory. And then the last man to win here, 1984, Moreno Argentine, who beat Francesco Mosa and Acacio da Silva on that occasion. Now Gilberto Simoni takes up some pacemaking on the front on his distinctive blue bike, as opposed to the rest of the team's white. 6 kilometers then to go for Franco Pellizotti. It really is a case of pacing yourself on this one, Sean. And at what point do you put the hammer down, even if you're at the front?
Well,
really, I mean, really give it absolutely full gas all.
Well, again, you have to calculate how you're feeling, and you know, if you're in the group of De Luca, for example, you know, you just have to see. Garzelli, I think he's suffering a bit. We see that, you know, he lost a little bit of contact. Basso, he's, you know, not going to do anything for the moment if he's capable of doing it. Menchov doesn't have to do anything, so it's De Luca who's the one who's putting in the big effort here. But when you ride in the front like that, you're going to pay the price a bit. Although, you know, the riders in your wheel, it's not a huge advantage, but still it does help a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see if De Luca can, you know, get into the attacking mode again, because he's certainly putting in a big effort here. And I think his tactics days, I'm going to try and, you know, really put them under pressure, make a very, very fast pace all the way. And 6 kilometers to finish, it's a long ways for Pellizotti to go to the finish.
It certainly is. Still 6 kilometers to go, looking down on the climb to Blockhaus today. Up at the top, we know it's covered in low cloud, with those Q rings on his rotor cranks there, the elliptical chain rings. Will it help super climber Carlos Sastre? Nobody will know until we get a little bit further up. 1 minute 20 seconds back to the Leipheimer group. Franco Pellizotti is going to be cheered through by the crowd here as he turns the corner. He's certainly got the bib between his teeth now. He's still got a fair way to go, though. Anything can happen behind him, and it's all about time. Always about time. 3 minutes and 8 seconds is how he started this morning. De Luca knows that Pellizotti can start eating up into his lead if he's not his second place, if he's not very careful. He started the day, let me just do the quick calculations, 1 minute 29 seconds ahead of Franco Pellizotti. He doesn't want to have to lose any time at all, especially with Basso in his wheel. The two could jump them and take away his second place. Remember, Basso is just a handful of seconds behind Pellizotti as well. They're in a super, as far as riders go, team riders go, Liquigas are in the best position of all.
Yes, well, certainly they have the manpower up here, but if you're on the limit and, you know, you're just hanging there, as Basso, I reckon he is. He's, you know, not comfortable here at all. We've seen his face. There's not a lot you can do, because in a mountain, you know, the numbers doesn't really count if you're not the strongest in the group.
Danilo De Luca setting the pace on the front here, with still sitting in the saddle, looking as comfortable as you like. Denis Menchov in the Maglia Rosa, the pink leader's jersey with the lime green jersey of Ivan Basso in third spot. This is Carlos Sastre. Further down the hill, he has with him Lance Armstrong. Sylvester Schmidt is in this group as well. 120 back from Franco Pellizotti to Levi Leipheimer. Leipheimer, who came into this Giro d'Italia full of confidence, brimming with confidence, and being having won the Tour of California and the Gila Tour, and just being real, and of course Castilla Leon. He's so worked up that he could win this Giro d'Italia, and it's all gone wrong for him in the last week.
Yes, well, certainly I think you know, in the big mountain stages, It's he's paid the price. The difficult days in the earlier mountain stages, the build-up of the fatigue. I think he's paying the price. And when you say the beginning of season, you had a fabulous opening part of the year and winning quite a few races. Maybe he's paying that price in condition a bit too early. If you look at the riders that are here, they're building gradually to this one, and that's what it's all about for a big tour. And I would reckon that Leipheimer, he started off the season on too much of a strong note. The form was too good a little bit too early.
Big names losing out today at the moment. Levi Leipheimer looking like he's going down further. Michael Rogers with him as well. Tadej Valjevec and Marzio Bruzigin all in that group. That's Rogers, Valjevec, Bruzigin and Leipheimer all in the group being driven on by Francesco Maschiarelli. Now, where is Kevin Sildreyes? We've not seen him at all, Sean. That is what, of course, Maschiarelli is driving on for. He's got the white jersey in his sights, the best young riders jersey.
Yes, but he certainly has, and I think he made a little bit of inroads yesterday on Kevin Sildreyes. He's still at 4 minutes, just a bit over 4. I think 4:13 exactly, and he knows that Sildreyes is suffering also, and he's going to really push it on here and try and take as much time or take all that time from him. And that's it's the time to do. That's another little bit of a competition here for the under 25 classement.
Everybody is still sitting on everybody. These guys still sitting behind the Ciclamino jersey. 42 seconds is the gap between Pellizotti and De Luca. De Luca at the moment doing just about enough to keep this man here, Franco Pellizotti, under control so that he doesn't lose his second place in the overall classification to fellow Italian Pellizotti. The 1:18 to the Carlos Sastre group, where Sastre is going to slip down the order today behind Franco Pellizotti. But now it's De Luca who must be looking to his own laurels, really, because although he's doing all the work on the front, if Pellizotti can dig a little deeper, he'll move within striking distance of second place overall. He's riding a super day today, Franco Pellizotti.
Yes, he certainly is, pulling away gradually there. 42 seconds, as we can see, it's suffering big time, and but still, certainly working very well. And De Luca, has been really going at full rate here, and Pellizotti still seems to be pulling out the seconds very, very slowly. De Luca is certainly concerned about that of Pellizotti for his place in the general classement. Also, Sastre losing time here. I think De Luca is worried about Sastre as well for the final time trial, because he's not, that far off. Sastre is a better time trialist, and I think De Luca, he has certainly two reasons to ride here: to control Pellizotti out front and also take a bit more time out of Sastre to be comfortable for the final time trial.
3 kilometers to go then for Franco Pellizotti. He had to help this man, Danilo De Luca. Danilo De Luca knows him very well indeed when he rode for Liquigas and won this Giro d'Italia. He knows how good Pellizotti is. He was the super domestique in the mountains and rode comfortably at the head of De Luca, setting him up for attacks. Then, of course, De Luca no longer riding for Liquigas and sidelined. Pellizotti last year got his chance to lead Liquigas. I would think there was a bit of chagrin by him, because he knew that Liquigas had gone against the voluntary agreement in signing riders who've been involved in cases, and they'd signed Ivan Basso to come back and lead the team the following year. So they gave him his chance last year, and he proved that he really had something that he could do in the Giro d'Italia if you gave him the chance. Now, this year, he's up against Ivan Basso in his own team, and trying to answer the question now that he is one of the top riders in Italy. Here he is. He's going to join a list of great riders if he keeps this up. The question, I don't think he's going to be stopped at the top unless he completely blows in the last 2.5 kilometers. He will take the Blockhaus stage today, but the question is, how much will he take it by? Huge pain now on the face of Franco Pellizotti. He started off so well, but he's got about 2.5 kilometers still to go. And suddenly Danilo De Luca, maybe he's got the call on the radio saying that Pellizotti is beginning to suffer. He knows, of course, this hill like the back of his hand. 51 seconds, though, is the gap Has De Luca got anything left in his legs to try and take back time on Franco Pellizotti, who is edging closer and closer and closer to his second place overall? 1:53 back to Levi Leipheimer's group. It's over. The Giro's over for Levi Leipheimer.
Yes, but certainly I think we see that already in the past days, and it's been confirmed that he's just losing time, and it's definitely over. Place in the podium, I think, is pretty much over for him, and we see Pellizotti still, just ploughing away here, and certainly starting to suffer a bit more. We can see, he's making the faces, but he knows the advantage, like 50 seconds.
Look at this!
But yes, De Luca, that is the question. Can he attack? And certainly, he's able to turn it on here, because he's been making the pace for a long time, and that is majorly difficult to do. But certainly De Luca is, the man who is, he's the man of the race today, because he's, really putting all the other big favourites under pressure.
That is absolutely fantastic. He saw a gap. He saw a gap next to the car and the motorcycles and went for it, just jumping the other two behind him. I think he knew that Garzelli and Basso were just hanging in there. Now he's just going to ride his own race. He's looking behind to see where Basso is. Remember, Basso isn't that far behind him in the GC either. He's fighting for his place now. Menchov, not troubled whatsoever, just followed him straight away, still hanging in there. Will this man ever have a bad day in the Giro d'Italia? It's looking very, very unlikely now.
Yes, it doesn't look like he's, so he doesn't look like he's really suffering at all. He's just looking so comfortable there, and that is, it's a killer when you like De Luca and you're riding so well. And De Luca, he's able to ride there for a long time, a number of kilometres, setting a very, very strong pace, and then it accelerates, like he did just a moment ago. You have to be really in top shape to do that. And you have a rider, you look around, he looks to be comfortable in your wheel. It is very demoralising, but you just have to keep working at it. He's taken it on board now, and he's just got to continue all the way to the finish. And he has reason to ride as well, to pull as much time out of the other ones for the general classement. If he doesn't crack Menchov here, well, he's going to try and secure his second place on the podium. Yep,
I think that's exactly what he's got in his mind, Sean. He's just taken a whopping 12 seconds out of Franco Pellizotti. Can he keep it going, though? He's really, really turning up the pressure. I mean, he looks like he's going quicker than Pellizotti always, because they have a different riding style. Pellizotti turns a bit bigger gear, just plows on, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. But De Luca has that sort of big fighting, attacking style. Now Garzelli is trying to get across. Basso is really struggling here. Ivan Basso on his return to big tour racing. He's suffering big style and slipping backwards. Sastre at the back of this group now. 1:45 back on Pellizotti is the Armstrong Sastre group. He's not going to shed him. He's not going to get rid of Denis Menchov unless something just snaps inside the cool, calm figure of Denis Menchov. 900 meters to go then for Franco Pellizotti. He's going to join a list of great riders who won here at Blockhaus. 1967 was the first time they came. Went right up to the full 2,142 meters. They finished today slightly below that at 1,674 meters. But Pellizotti is going to join Eddie Merckx, Franco Bitosi, Jose Manuel Fuente and Moreno Argentin in the list of winners here in the past. First came here in 1967. Back then, of course, it was still all gravel roads. You could hardly see him. It's like being in the Vuelta a España. You could hardly see him at the top. Franco Pellizotti, attack to the bottom. Look at this, Garzelli's coming up. Garzelli has come onto the wheel of Danilo De Luca and Denis Menchov. What a fantastic day. If you wanted fantastic attacking riding, it's Garzelli and De Luca. Pellizotti using strength and timing and the ability to just suffer over a long distance. De Luca, Garzelli really attacking, and Menchov just cruising in relative terms.
Just waiting, and he's going to go for the sprint once again. I think
he is. I think he is. Yeah.
He looks, really comfortable, and he's going to, go for the time bonification, not allow De Luca to pull back them vital seconds. And what a fight by Garzelli. He's been really, battling, and that is the danger for De Luca. If Garzelli can make the sprint, De Luca could find himself, not getting any bonification here.
Yeah. It's just strange to think that, but yet that would be the case. De Luca still having to set the pace. Menchov is going to just sit behind him and jump him again. Franco Pellizotti, this is the best day of his career, without a shadow of a doubt. This is a real epic finish for Franco Pellizotti. Joint leader as they came into the Giro d'Italia, and the loyalties of the Italian public, and of course the watching public around the world been yo-yoing if you're a Liquigas fan. between Franco Pellizotti and Ivan Basso. Today, it is the day of Franco Pellizotti. He wins in Blockhaus. Joins the great Eddie Merckx, Franco Pellizotti, Moreno Argentine, and Jose Manuel Fuente, showing he really is a proper stage race rider. This is the race for second place. Menchov, look, he's out of the saddle, waiting to wind it up. Basso fighting to get back on the wheel. Fighting not to lose too much time. Now digging deep. That explosive punch of De Luca, and Menchov not able to respond. For once, Denis Menchov looks like he can't get under the wheel, and De Luca is fighting with Garzelli to get the extra seconds. De Luca wants them, but Garzelli's going to take them. Stefano Garzelli comes home second. Danilo De Luca will be third, and Denis Menchov, for once, is distance. It's the first time we've seen it in the race. He'll lose a handful of seconds, but that's it. But that's a sign. But it's come a little bit too late, I think.
Yes, and I think De Luca will, look back at that and he'd say, well, he was suffering a little bit and he did not show the signs. And, certainly there on that last 150 metres, Menchov in big problems, and certainly a big surprise to me. And I think it will be also to a lot of the other big favourites.
Oh, what a day. What a day. They'll be analysing that finish. They'll be looking at it on the replays tonight, looking and saying, well, maybe Menchov has got a crack somewhere. And I'm only a handful of seconds behind him, says Danilo De Luca. Francesco Maschiarelli, look, hanging in the back of this group. He did all the pacemaking. Now it's Mario Bruzigin who's taking it over with Sylvester Schmidt, Carlos Sastre in third spot here. Lance Armstrong, Levi Leipheimer, Michael Rogers. They've all come back into this group. Gilberto Simoni, that's a fighting ride then by Rogers and Leipheimer. But the gap is 1:47, 48, 49. Wow, Bruzigin's going to improve his seconds. There we are, 1:54 back to Bruzigin and 1:58 to Rogers and the Leipheimer group here. And Gilberto Simoni comes over at 2:04. Maschiarelli comes in at 2:08. Fine ride by what somebody described to me on a text. Who's the beatnik-looking guy riding at the front in the red? It is Francesco Maschiarelli. His brother Andrea Maschiarelli is in the side as well. His dad was out riding yesterday, Palmiro. And Armstrong looking as though somebody's just put him through a mangle. I'm not surprised. For the first time, though, he's really coming into form. Watch out those people in the Tour de France, is all I can say. Whether he'll be right up the front, who knows? But even so, he's certainly coming back into really good shape. Is the 7 times Tour de France winner. Well, a win for Franco Pellizotti. Let's not overlook that, Sean. A terrific win for him, and he gets the bonus seconds as well, of course, and that will start to put De Luca under pressure.
Yes, it certainly will, but I think De Luca did what he had to do. He just kept on riding there, and it was, the way to see if we could put Menchov under difficulty. Unfortunately, there was nobody else there to go in the attack, and that's what De Luca needed. When you're riding in the front, it's difficult, to start attacking. But we see he was able to do that on 2 occasions, and Menchov certainly, had problems in the last couple of 100 metres, and he certainly was suffering early, because in that last little bit, suddenly you do not start suffering in the last 250 metres. So I think he was showing the good signs. He wasn't showing on the face, certainly, and I think De Luca will say, unfortunately, if I had known that, I could have maybe attacked a bit more in the last 2 or 3 kilometres.
Given him 2 or 3 digs and tried to break him, because certainly he was able to respond. First of all, seemed to cruise up. This is the white young jersey of Kevin Seldraes here. Remember, it was 2:08 back to Maschiarelli. Pellizotti moves into third in GC. That's good riding by Kevin Seldraes. But he loses 2 minutes and 8 seconds, interestingly, to Francesco Maschiarelli. So he'll move within 2 minutes, nearly, of the lead in the young riders jersey. Will Francesco Maschiarelli. Seldraes riding for himself, but that's a great win by Pellizotti. Attacked early on, Sean, made a good gap straight away, and then just got into rhythm.
Yes, well, certainly got into a very good rhythm and attacked from a long way out. And, I wonder what he expecting some of the other big favourites maybe to come across to him, maybe Basso. But, when he went, he got an advantage quite quickly. And, there's nothing he can do, only just give it everything. And I think De Luca, was the man who, limited his time gain. He did, all the riding, really. And if De Luca had not been up there to do that, well, Pellizotti could have pulled quite a more substantial advantage.
My word, Garzelli's a fighter. Isn't he just 8th in the overall classification with absolutely no way? Well, I mean, he could make it up on Rogers. I reckon he hoped if he could lose Rogers would lose 3 minutes or so, but fighting for second place here, Blockhaus. Well, Danilo De Luca a bit disappointed he didn't get second in the extra seconds there. He could have done, every second counts.
Yes, well, certainly it does. And Garzelli, he's a bit further down in the general classement, but still, fighting for the second place. And second place on a stage, such a prestigious stage here today, it's always very important. And when you're riding on the front, as Luca has done on the climb for a long time, it pays the price. But Garzelli also, he suffered big time. Like, he lost contact, fought his way back. He certainly fought for the second place on the stage big time.
Pellizotti then takes the victory, 42 seconds ahead of Garzelli. De Luca at 43, and then Menchov showing some signs that he was under pressure at 48 seconds, so loses just the 5 seconds in time to the initial time to Danilo De Luca, who will get bonuses as well, but not that many. Menchov then leads by